As you come into your comfortable seat, let's wake up in the shoulders first. Roll forward. Feel your body in this later morning yoga class. And then roll your shoulders wide, shoulder blades onto your back, opening across the front chest. And relax the front, back, and sides of your collar. Let your neck extend skyward, your head extend out of the crown. And from your heart center today, root down through the spine into the pelvis and your sit bones. If you're on the floor, just find that length along your spine from crown to sit bones. Fluid breath into the torso with an awareness of the shoulder blades on your back body and how this may be stretching the front chest open slightly. Because as the shoulder blades come strong onto the back body, the heads of the arm bones get drawn slightly back and pec minor gets a stretch. See if you can let the hyoid bone rest in and up and the base of the skull rest gently up. And tune into your three-dimensional breath. Invite the breath deep into your pelvis and deep into your low back. Feel for the diaphragm moving. Invite an expansion of the whole circle of the lowest ribs. Now think of your latitudes. If you're sitting, think of your rings around your navel, around your low ribs, around your mid-chest, in your collar, your chin and base of skull, your superhero eye mask. And let them all gently lift you skyward. Shoulder blades still firm and broad on the back. Now invite the breath into your torso and notice where it wants to go to help you stretch open. Notice where you tend to over stiffen. Can you work towards balance? There may need to be a little effort, but can the effort be not too tight, not too strong, so that there's more of a relaxed movement to the breath? Now notice if parts of your torso are tight and invite the breath into those parts. And this may take some effort to stretch into those parts with the breath. Now go back to gentle three-dimensional breath. Notice if more of you can open and expand easily. Rooting your sit bones, lengthen up through the spine. Root to rise while still breathing into your tree rings. Now go deep into the pelvis and find the spine right above the pelvis and lift one vertebrae off of the other up your back, up your sides and front. Notice how some may be harder to stretch than others. Notice the work you can engage in along the sleeve of your spine to create strength and space. And as you lengthen the spine, you might feel stretching in the outer chest and rib cage. Breathe into opening this compression. And then relaxing just slightly, begin to draw a circle with your nose. Start with the size of a dime, and then a quarter, and then a $50, moving up to the size of a tennis ball, and then larger and larger if it feels good. Move slowly enough to feel the muscles and the tissue you're engaging. Say good morning to this tissue. I see you. I feel you. Thank you for being a part of me. And then start your circles the other direction small. And let them gently get larger and larger. Try to really concentrate inward on the tissue your attention is drawn to. Good morning. I wonder if I can stay conscious of you during this practice today. And then stop, closing the eyes on the front of your head, eyes on the back of your head open, and look out over one shoulder, and then the other. Turning your head, really seeing what's behind you. Now stop again in center, looking back behind you. Root to rise. Three-dimensional breath. Shoulder blades broad. Perhaps now they can rest easy broad. Perhaps not quite yet. Let's inhale our hands to our hearts. May we be present with all we awaken to inside the body during this class today. Namaste. Okay, let's come to standing. And actually, let's begin with our yoga strap today. And let's open it across our front thighs. Palms facing back will broaden across the collarbones, wide across the back body, We'll close the eyes on the front of our head and open the eyes on the back of our head. As we draw the palms back and the strap against our femurs, we'll root the tail, lift the low back ribs, lift the back base of the skull. Look out the eyes on the back of your head, and then press the arms back. Press the head of the arm bone back in relationship to the wrist. Don't press so hard that you throw your ribs or your pelvis. Press hard enough to feel a stretch across the front collarbones as you draw the head of the arm bones back, and inhale and look out over your right shoulder. Now, I guess we can do this with the back of the head. So my eyes on the back of my head are looking over my left shoulder. And then go across, keep the eyes on the front closed. I've never done it this way before. Look out the other way, keeping broad across your collarbones. Keep seeing what's behind you. It does make it a little easier to keep the head back. Root the tail, looking out the eyes on the back of your head. Good pressure against the strap without hyperextending the knees. Look back and forth, see what's behind you. And then come back to center and release. Take the strap behind you now. Strap wide, palms back. Inhale and lift the hands gently away from the body. Rooting your tail, take your low back ribs back. Take the base of your skull back and up. And lift the hands gently behind you as you broaden across the collar. Now notice if you want to flare the ribs or stick your hind end out or move your pelvis, try to stay steady in the pelvis and lift your navel ring. And lift your rib ring, and lift your mid-chest ring, and lift your collar, and lift the base of your skull, and lift your superhero eye mask. Breathe three-dimensionally. Relax the back of the collar, and bend your knees forward over the second metatarsals, and begin to hinge forward. Hinge forward and let the hands lift skyward as far as they comfortably go. Some of you will rest your bellies on your femur bones and take the hands up skyward and maybe even overhead. Don't force this. Really feel into what's right in your body and only go to there. Feel for three-dimensional breath. Fluid breath. Some of you, if you're warmed up from a morning walk or something, may want to lift your sit bones skyward into Uttanasana. Only do this if you're warmed up. Now bend your knees and bring your hands back towards your buttocks and unhinge. Release the strap and roll your shoulders. Take the strap wide and inhale the strap up overhead. Take it back behind you a little bit. Release the head of the arm bones and integrate them into your torso. And rooting your heels, lift your heart. Rooting your tail, lift your low back rib ring. Rooting your tail, lift the base of your skull. Breathe into those rising rings, the navel ring, the rib ring, the chest ring, the collar ring, the base of the skull, the superhero eye mask. Breathe three-dimensionally into your torso. And then exhale, release the strap. Okay, let's come to the wall and let's bring one hip against the wall, one arm up, palm facing the center of the room. Other hand comes onto your leg and we stretch, lifting each ring, and then we side bend off the wall and we reach from the rooting feet through the fingertips. Fluid breath. Lifting the side waist, lifting the ribs, lifting the collar. Rooting to rise. Think of your pelvis as this middle place. From the pelvis, we root down. From the pelvis, we lengthen up to the heart, to the third eye, to the crown. And exhale, float back up. Let both arms dangle beside you. Notice how just one stretch can change the fascial network. And take the other arm up the wall. Hip against the wall, feet a little distance from the wall. Find your length straight up the wall before you side bend off the wall. Breathe into opening the spaces between the ribs, opening the space between the ribs and the pelvis. Fluid breath in the stretch. And then exhale back up. Bring your hands to the wall behind you. Fingernails back, palms forward. Heels can come back to the wall if that's comfortable for you, or be a little distance from the wall. And lean your heart out. Lean off the wall with your body. Press your arms back and wide, wide across your collarbones. Now breathe into rooting from the pelvis. Think of that hip ring that can integrate the hips, root down into the feet, and lift the navel ring, the low rib ring, the chest ring, the collar, the skull, and the superhero eye mask. Three-dimensional breath. Notice where the breath wants to go. Notice if there are areas the breath avoids. Invite the breath to expand you in every direction. Lift the base of the skull. Close the eyes on the front of the head. Look out the eyes on the back of the head. Open the eyes on the front of the head. And release. Pause away from the wall in mountain pose. Let your hyoid bone rest back, the eyes on the back of your head open. Fluid breath, root to rise. Okay. Now take one hand against the wall so that we can do a pec minor stretch. Thumb facing gently up the wall. Place the other arm across your ribs as you slowly begin to turn away from the hand on the wall. And only go as far as it feels like a nice stretch in your pec minor and your side chest. And then if you'd like to, you could bend your knees a little and see, oh, what does that do? You could straighten the legs and rooting your tail, lift your heart a little. What does that do? And let yourself sway and explore on your own a little bit into the tissue, inviting your breath into the stretch. Inviting an opening into the chest and into the muscle tissues we use when we do side arm, side plank work. And then take it to the other side. It should feel good. You can place your hand, my arm's about parallel, tiny bit higher than parallel to the floor, but you can play with lower and higher. You can play with bending the knees to find the stretch. Take a few deep breaths in each position to see what you can discover. You may want to straighten the legs, root the tail, lift the low rib ring, lift the heart. Release the collar. And then return back to face the wall and roll your shoulders. Okay, let's bring the first hand onto the wall again. Step your feet a little distance out so you're in a tiny bit of a side plank, putting pressure on that arm. And draw the hand down the wall. And draw the hand up the wall. And draw the hand back behind you. And draw the hand forward. And draw it down again. And draw it back again. Now open the other arm. Imagine there's another wall you can press that other hand into. And with the hand that is on the imaginary wall, draw down, draw up, draw back, draw forward, draw down, and draw back. Now really root your feet. Feel that integrative ring around your greater trochanters, your pubic bone, the base of your buttocks. And lift your navel ring, your rib ring, your chest ring, your collar ring, your skull. And float your hand off the wall pressing into both hands, releasing the collar, lengthen the neck, and release the arms and roll the shoulders. Take it to the other side. Remember, your thumb may turn slightly up towards 1 or 2 o'clock. Take your feet a little farther from the wall and draw the hand down. And draw the hand up and back and forward and down and back. Feel into what's engaging. Engage each finger pad of your hand. And then open the other arm. And on the imaginary wall, draw down, draw up, draw forward, draw back, draw down and back. Feel both arms engaging. And float the hand on the real wall off. Draw down, draw back. Integrate the arm bones into the shoulders. Root your feet, all 4 corners. And rise through the crown. 3-dimensional breath. Rooting the tail, lift the navel ring, the lower rib ring, the chest ring, the collar, the base of the skull, the superhero eye mask. And release your arms and roll your shoulders. And let's roll one shoulder up, down, and back, and the other. So we've awakened that area, but that doesn't mean it has to be stiff and tight. We can take an elbow back and an elbow back. And we can open into backstroke. Maybe it's a little more open for the stretching that we've done today. Fluid breath. Maybe it's a little tight from the gardening work you've been doing. Reach and reach and reach. And inhale. Reach both arms up. And exhale, open into your cactus position and step your feet wide, turning your feet out, let the knees bend. And exhale. Pinkies together, cat curl the spine. And feel how the shoulder blades roll around to the outer edge of the rib cage. And inhale, roll the shoulder blades back on the back, lift the heart, press the palms out. And roll the pinkies together. And roll the palms out. And follow your breath. And see if you can keep your awareness in the movement of the shoulder blade and arm bones today. Now open up, hands stretching as wide as they can. Lift your heels and lower your heels. And lift your heels and lower your heels. Now this is a little bit of external rotation, right? So you could have your feet forward. Good, Debbie. Okay, fluid breath, lifting and lowering. Now lift the heels, lift the hands, stretch the hands wide. Lower the heels, fist the hands, come into your cactus and reach and lower and reach and lower. Pumping the lymph from the calves up towards the lymph glands in the groins. Pumping the lymph down from the hands into the lymph nodes in your armpits. Fluid breath. Moving the lymph with your breath. We are the pump for the lymph system. Movement and breath. And straighten your legs. Turn the left leg out, take the right heel back. That's external rotation for the left leg. Bend the knee so you don't have to go into external rotation if it's bad for you. Now, hollow the back leg, groin back. So that work we've been doing of not dropping the femur bone forward, hollow that groin back. Keep that back leg femur bone back in the back plane of the hip and open the arms. Rest into your Virabhadrasana 2. Fluid breath. Now, exhaling, root down into the ground. Inhale, lift the navel ring, the rib ring, the chest ring, the eye band, and float the front palm up, back fingers to the back leg. Broad across your collar, long neck, fluid breath. Feel into your shoulder girdle and notice, do you have an awareness of both heads of your arm bones, both shoulder blades? Keep that awareness as you come up, straightening the front leg and cartwheel into your high trikonasana. Feel for the shoulder blades strong and broad on the back body. Make sure you're not throwing the upper hand Back so far that you're popping the head of the arm bone forward. Integrate your arm bones. Hug them into the torso. Fluid breath. Now rooting through the pelvis, down into the feet, lengthen to the navel, to the low ribs, to the chest, to the eye mask, and float back up. Keep that space as you bend the front knee and come into dancing warrior. Fluid breath, lengthening the spine out of the pelvis, cartwheel back into your high trikonasana. Check in that you're not hyperextending knees, that you're really connecting into the four corners of each foot, and find your back body. Close the eyes on the front of your hand if you can balance, head, if you can balance there, and open the eyes on the back. Lengthen the back of the neck. Keep the front eyes closed if you can, and float back up, bending the front knee. Come into your dancing warrior. Where does your gaze go? Can you keep the back of the neck long? Float back up into star pose and turn the left leg in and the right leg out. Take the left heel back. That will help you keep the left femur bone engaged back into the pelvis. Now bend the right knee over your second metatarsal. Fluid breath. Release across the collar. Look out over your front fingertips and rest into your Vira 2. Now remember your pelvic floor, and from the center of your pelvic floor, broaden out into each femur bone. So you're kind of widening the legs. Open the back foot, open the front foot, good base, and turn the front palm up, lengthening, lengthening, lengthening the spine. Come into your dancing warrior. Broad across the collar. Fluid breath. Then exhale, rooting into the legs, straighten the front leg, cartwheel into your high trikonasana. Stretch up to the navel ring, the rib ring, the chest ring, the collar. Feel those shoulder blades hug broad on your back. Try to really engage them onto the back so you know they're there. Lengthen through the crown. Rooting from the pelvis into the feet. Rise back up. Keep the length you've established in your spine as you float into your dancing warrior. Can you relax the arms, the face, different parts of the body into the pose and still be aware of where the arm bones and the shoulder blades are in space? And exhale, float back up and through to your high trikonasana. Feel how strong your legs can be, like you could pull the mat apart with your feet. You could hug your feet towards each other. You can engage each of the four corners, and that's going to help stabilize you up to those shoulder blades stretching away from your buttocks. And float back up and turn the right leg in and step together, mountain pose. Close the eyes on the front of your head, open the eyes on the back of your head. Fluid, three-dimensional breath. Okay, so now let's try this in a different orientation with space. We'll begin with Parsvottanasana. Some of you may want to use a wall because you're taller. Some may want to use a chair. Remember, this is your rock step forward fold. It is not too much external rotation in either leg. And you may want to come down to blocks, so you might start with the back of the chair and come down to blocks if you have more flexibility. We step 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, and we take our rock step. And then we root both feet into the ground and inhale, lift the arms. Now really lift each ring away from the other before you hinge forward. Keep that length. Bring your hands to the wall or to your furniture. Either press it forward or step back. Draw the front leg hip crease back. Check in that you're not collapsing into the back foot arch. But likewise, those of you that supinate, don't roll too far out onto the pinky toe side. Breathe into stretching the rings away from each other. So as you draw the pelvis back, draw the navel ring towards your shoulders and the chest ring and the base of the skull and the crown. Some of you may step your hands to the seat of the chair or down to blocks. Make sure that you're not going so far that you cat curl the spine. Keep that length in the spine from those rings reaching away from each other. Fluid, three-dimensional breath. Let the breath stretch you open and help you create space. In whatever position you've come to, feel how the head of the arm bones sit in your shoulder socket and how the shoulder blades activate on your back body. Fluid breath. Three-dimensional breath. Now rooting. Begin to rise back up out of the pose and open your arms in a T, palms forward. Find your shoulder blades strong on the back. Rooting into the four corners of each feet, lift through your crown, lift your rings. And one more time with the hands wide like wings, hinge forward. Feel for the strong shoulder blades. Find those muscles around the outer edges of your shoulder blade. Release the neck out of the collar, lengthening the back of the neck. Open the eyes on the back of your head and look skyward. And rooting into the feet, rise back up, still looking out the eyes on the back of your head. And step your feet together. Pause in mountain pose. Rest into a balanced posture. Shoulder blades and the buttocks helping you inform the posture. Bring your hands up and pat your buttocks in the back. Keep your hands on your buttocks like you're putting them into your back pockets and broaden across your collar. Root your tailbone, lift your low back rib ring, lift the base of the skull. Breathe into your heart center. Fill the torso three-dimensionally with breath. Release your arms, palms forward. Continue to feel the shoulder blades on the back body. And step the next foot forward, rock step. Inhale, float your arms skyward, lifting each ring above the other. Exhale, with that space in the spine, hinge forward, drawing the front hip crease back, drawing the pelvis back. Fluid breath. Three-dimensional breath. If you're ready, you can fold a little farther, but don't push this in an eagerness to get towards the floor. Make sure you can keep that long and spacious spine. Fluid breath. The front knee can bend a little if your hamstrings are tight, or you can stay higher in the pose. Think of lengthening your back body from tailbone to crown. Lengthening your side bodies from hip creases to armpits to outer hand. Think of lengthening the front of your spine from the center of the pelvis up along the front spine. And then rooting the feet. Rise back up and take your arms into a T. Shoulder blades strong and broad on the back body. Wrists are a little forward of the shoulders. Open the eyes on the back of your head. Look behind you. Keeping those eyes open. You can keep the front eyes open too. Hinge forward. Aligning your head well over your spine. Reach from the pelvis out through your crown. Wings strong on your back body. Fluid breath. And exhale, release your wings and unhinge. And step your feet together and pause in mountain pose. Lean into the wall behind you. Fluid breath. Bring your hands to your lowest circle of ribs. Root from the pelvis down and lift this low circle of ribs. Lift it up. Bring your hands to your greater trochanter. Pat that area. Root down from the widest place on your hips, root down. Bring your hands to the navel ring. Lift the navel ring away from the pelvis. Bring your hands to the low rib ring. Lift the low rib ring away from the navel ring. Bring your hands to the chest ring. Lift the chest ring away from the navel ring and hold that. Feel yourself rooting from the pelvis down, lifting these other rings, and release your arms. Come back into your cactus position. Find your shoulder blades on the back body. Close the eyes on the front of your head. Open the eyes on the back. And looking over the right shoulder, inhale. Oops, I'm looking at the eyes on my back of my head. And switch direction. Look out to the eyes on the back of your head. Turning the head. Come back to center. Feel the shoulder blades on your back body. Open your arms to a T. Integrate the arm bones onto the back at the shoulder blades and release your pinkies down by your hips. Palms forward. Breathe into the heart center. Lift from the crown and release. Okay, so next, let's take it into our trikonasana with the chair. And let's begin it high today. So we really work on the length of the spine as we move towards coming into eventually an ardha chandrasana pose. So we'll step the feet wide, turn the front leg open and take the back heel back. So for me, it's the left leg in your picture and the right heel back. And inhale, open, because I'm mirroring you. Shoulder blades on the back body. Lengthening the spine. Really find that length. And then begin to hinge into your high trikonasana and bring your fingertips to the chair seat or the block on the chair seat. And draw the hand back towards the hip crease, lengthening this lower side body. Draw the hand back. Lengthen the neck out a little bit more. Really actively draw, like I'm pulling on the block on my chair seat. Pull. Feel how you can wake up that underside, that shoulder blade. And if you want to, you can take the legs a little wider to find more length in the spine. This is a good place to do that because you have stability with the chair. Draw the arm back. Feel into waking up those muscles. And then float yourself tall, long spine. And we'll go a little lower. So you may move the block. And we inhale, length. And we exhale through our straw, lift the pelvic floor, lengthen the sleeve of muscles along the spine, and come down onto fingertips on the chair. And shoulder blades are on the back body wide. And we draw the hand towards the hip crease. And we lengthen through the crown as we root the feet. Breathe deep into the pelvis. And as you exhale, imagine energy running out each limb out through the crown of your head. And exhale, float yourself back up. Okay, one more. You can come to palm on the seat, or some of you may come lower to a block. We inhale, open, shoulder blades on the back. We exhale, lift the pelvic floor, lengthen the sleeve of muscles along the spine. Keep aware of your shoulder blades, shoulder blades, shoulder blades, shoulder blades as you come lower. Don't let this arm do this. Okay, that's too low. Once it starts curling that way, you've gone too far. Keep that upper shoulder blade open on your back. Beautiful poses. Reach out through each finger. Don't break the wrist. Yeah, keep the fingers reaching in a spread from the hands, from the palm. And then as you're ready, exhale, root into the legs and float back up. Feel your shoulder blades as you turn the left leg in and step together, mountain pose. Now for a moment, feel your body side to side because the two sides were doing very different work. And then we'll take the chair to the other side. It'll be an external rotation of the right leg on this side, internal rotation of the back leg. We want to, again, be aware of not popping this back leg femur bone forward. So we step wide. We hollow the groins, and that may mean doing this, watch, where you stick your hind end back a little, you hinge forward, and that back leg groin gets soft. And then we lengthen back up without hardening or dropping this femur bone forward. We keep it back and open the arms. Shoulder blades on the back body, broad and strong. Exhale. Cartwheel into your high trikonasana, lengthening out of the pelvis. Bring your hand to your block. Draw the block back towards your legs. Feel how you can wake up the right side body in doing so. Really wake it up. Lengthen from the right hip crease into the hollow of the right armpit. Fluid breath. Shoulder blades strong on your back body. Root from the pelvis into your feet and exhale, float back up. This time we'll come lower. Inhale, open the arms. Shoulder blades strong on the back. Now some of you may stay high. You don't have to come lower. Exhale, lift the pelvic floor. Lengthen the sleeve of muscles along the spine. Bring your fingertips to the chair. Draw the fingertips back towards you. Broad across the collar, strong in the shoulder blades. Lift the navel ring, the rib ring, the chest ring, the superhero eye mask. Root. And as you exhale, use the exhale to hug in the transverse abdominis and float back up. And release your arms and roll your shoulders. Woohoo! Let's do one more at whatever height feels right to you. Inhale, open. Feel the shoulder blades on your back and the arm bones integrated. Exhale and cartwheel. Keep aware of those shoulder blades. Keep aware as you come into your chosen height of the pose. Now, can you still lengthen your neck out of the collar? If you can't, you've gone a little too low. Think of the hyoid bone resting back. If you'd like to, close the eyes on the front of your head. Open the eyes on the back of your head. Align your skull over the spine. If you've gotten too low, it may contort how the head has to sit. Fluid breath. And then as you're ready, exhale, draw back up with the left shoulder blade. Use it to draw you back out of the pose. And turn the right foot in. Step together, mountain pose. Roll the left shoulder up, down, and back, and then the right. Roll back and forth across the torso. And lift the elbow, and maybe you backstroke. Whatever feels good in your shoulder girdle. And then take the left arm across to the right and draw the left arm to the right and draw the arm into your chest and breathe into the cap of your shoulder. Relax the shoulder away from the skull. Lengthen the skull away from the shoulder. And take your right ear towards your right shoulder just a little bit. Come back up, left ear towards left shoulder. Fluid breath. And then come back up and switch sides. Right arm across, draw it left, and then draw it right and draw it into the heart. Breathe into the stretch across the shoulder cap. Take the left ear slightly to the left. Come back up. Take the right ear towards the right shoulder. Breathe into the stretch. And release. Bring your yoga strap up behind your skull. So this is a lot about lengthening, awareness in the shoulder girdle and neck today. So we bring the strap around our neck, bring the elbows inside the strap, and lift the base of the skull. Look down at the earth. Lift the base of the skull, root into your feet, root your tailbone. Lift your navel ring, your rib ring, your chest ring. Now keep all of that really steady as you lift your gaze to the horizon and lift the base of the skull. Make sure you're not hyperextending knees. And now lift the navel ring, the rib ring, the chest ring again. And now let the head rest back in the strap. Keep tractioning the base of the skull and open just from the heart center up. So you're not flaring your ribs or your navel ring. You're opening the upper spine right up, the upper thoracic, and letting the gaze look skyward as you still traction the base of the skull. Standing back bend. Pubic bone and tailbone stay level. The navel ring still lifting, the rib ring still lifting, the chest ring still lifting. And we exhale and release. Okay, move your blocks out of your way, and let's take a Virabhadrasana 1 with this length and awareness. Okay, so you'll step 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, rock step. Elbows come inside the strap again, and we lift the strap up under the base of the skull. If the strap doesn't work for you, you can interlace your fingers and put your thumbs at the base of your skull. Look down at the earth and lift the base of your skull. Now close the eyes on the front of your head, open the eyes on the back of your head, look back behind you, and lift your gaze to the horizon, or the front gaze. Look out the eyes on the back. Now bend into the front knee, hinge slightly forward, and take the back leg femur bone back. Keep that back femur bone back as you lift through the pelvic floor. Lift and lengthen the spine, lifting the navel ring, the rib ring, the chest ring. You can open the arms long. Lift the base of the skull. Breathe into your long side bodies, into your strong shoulders reaching through your hands. Keep that back femur bone back. Root into your four corners. Feel the strength and stability of the lower body. Allow you to expand the upper body. Lift the shoulder girdle. Lift the base of the skull. And exhale. Release. Pause in mountain pose. Fluid, three-dimensional breath. Close the eyes in the front of the head. Open the eyes in the back of the head. And turn to look over one shoulder. And turn to look over the other. And go back and forth a few times. And step the next foot forward, rock step. Bring your elbows to the inside of the strap. Root your feet. And lift the base of the skull. Lift the base of the skull. And take the back leg femur bone into the back of the pelvis. Think about softening that groin. And then bend into the front knee. Let your gaze look towards earth and lift the base of your skull. Let your gaze come to the horizon. Keep hollowing that back femur bone back into the pelvis. Hug in your hip ring. Root from the legs and lift your navel ring, your rib ring, your chest ring. Lift your collar, lift your gaze, and lift in traction the base of the skull. You may open your arms long. Fluid breath. Lift your side ribs. Lift up under the tip of your shoulder blade. Lift the base of your skull. Rooting the legs. Make sure that back leg femur bone's pressing back towards the heel. The head of the femur bone back into the pelvis. And exhale. Release. Pause in your mountain pose. Bring the strap forward, holding it in your hands. Inhale the strap up overhead. Let your hands widen on the strap and take it back. Some of you will be able to bring it all the way back and around, and some of you will just come back down forward. Please honor your shoulder. If you feel any kind of pinching in the motion, don't do it. It's not worth the risk of injuring your rotator cuff. Fluid breath. Pausing wherever you'd like to breathe into the stretch. Thinking about your rings stabilizing one over the other. You could come into a stretch anywhere along the way and do a little twist just to feel into, oh, where is that tissue I most want to open? And then exhale, release the arms back down. Okay, with this grown awareness, let's come into our Virabhadrasana 3, and from there we'll move into our Ardha Chandrasana. So lift your fingers high, high up the wall, heels lifted off the floor, and slowly lower the heels. Now I'm hoping your side bodies and your spine will stretch as the pelvis releases towards the floor. You may feel like you've created more space along the spine. Keep that space and walk back until you come to fingertips on the wall. Remember, you do not have to come to perpendicular with the floor. You could be higher. You want to keep that nice length to the spine, not cat curl or cause kyphosis in the upper back. Now take one foot back behind you, keeping the toes pointed towards the earth. Float that leg up. Take your pelvis away from the wall, your navel ring away from the wall, your rib ring, your chest ring. Feel your collar reach for the wall, your crown. Now release one hand and float that shoulder blade strong onto your back body. Feel how that shoulder blade can help you stabilize in connection with the lifted leg buttock. And then release the other hand if you'd like. Bring up that wing too. And if you lose your balance, you just come back and try again. Lengthen out of the collar. Fluid breath. Shoulder blades strong on your back body. Beautiful. And release down. Bye, Karen. Okay. And try the other side. Let's lift fingertips up onto the high wall. Remember, your hands can be really wide, so there's room for your neck. As you lower your heels, lower your pelvis, breathe space along the spine. Invite that beautiful summer sky in between your vertebrae. And then walk back, fingertips touching the wall. And as you're ready, lift the next leg up. Root the four corners of your standing foot, but also reach out the four corners of your lifted foot. Strengthen along the sleeve of your spine. Maybe that's taking an inhale, exhaling through your straw. Do what works for you. Release one arm, draw that wing onto the back body strong. Maybe you release the other wing. Fluid breath. Wow, my feet are really wobbly today. Root through your four corners of your feet. Shoulder blades strong on your back. Lengthen from heel to crown. Release the back of your collar. And unhinge. Pause in your mountain pose. Rest your head back, your hyoid bone in. Broad across your collarbones. Feel the shoulder blades broad on your back. Let your palms turn forward. This external rotation of the upper arm bones helps you to stretch open that front chest a little bit. From the outer hip, root into the outer heels. From the outer heels, stretch across and press into the big toe ball mound. From the big toe ball mound, zip across and press into the pinky toe ball mound. Root your inner heel. Fluid breath. Rooting from the hips down, lift your navel ring, even in the back. Begin with lifting the low back ribs, the back of the chest ring, the back of the collar, the back base of the skull, the back of the superhero eye mask. Lift through your crown. And then let your arms swing and just take a gentle walk around your space. So we can get too stiff when we do pose after pose. We want to allow a fluidity into the body so that we're not so stiff that we lose our balance. Then as you're ready, go and get one of your blocks for your Ardha Chandrasana. and come to whatever wall you want to use for support. We'll do it twice. So if you want to try it away from the wall on the second time, you can. Bend into your front knee. And remember, the block goes forward of your foot and then towards your wall so that it's kind of like the knight piece in chess, so that you aren't on a tightrope and your buttocks doesn't get in your way of your arm helping support you. And then you unhinge open and use that upper arm opening, bringing the shoulder blade onto your back. Now remember, that is a strong external rotation, okay? Coming into Ardha Chandrasana, so you can always do Virabhadrasana 3 again. Use that shoulder blade onto your back body, opening to help you. See if your gaze can look out to the side instead of down. Play with that with your balance. Really beautiful work, Sherry, staying alive in your lifted leg. Use that shoulder girdle as part of your balancing network. Beautiful, alive, active legs, Susie and John. Beautiful. Fluid breath. Wow, Anna, nice strength. And then as you're ready, exhale, hand to your hip. Keep aware of that shoulder as you float out of the pose. Aha. And let's take it to the other side. Pause and breathe and come into it as you're ready. Jill, it's so nice to see everybody so summery. Fluid breath. Nice coming into it, Jill. Fluid length, really active and alive back leg. Wow. So as I look at Jill, she's like pulsing from the pelvis, outer legs, down the length of her spine, down the standing arm. Find that shoulder blade on the top arm, hugging onto the back body. Beautiful active pose, Anna. Fluid breath, really nice length from pelvic floor through crown. Yeah, wake up that back leg, use it. And now again, think of where your head is in space. How do you want it to align with your spine? Don't drop it forward like a heavy fruit. Fluid breath. And then as you're ready, hand to the hip and come down. Beautiful slow motion descent, Debbie. Okay, pause in your mountain pose. And let's try this pose standing, okay? Or just pieces of this pose. So inhale, lift your arms, palms facing forward. Find your shoulder blades on the back body. Fluid breath. Take one foot and turn it out to the side. You can try your easiest side, okay? Keep those shoulder blades on the back body and ground the foot that you're going to step onto. Step onto the foot. And now begin to cartwheel just a little bit. Just lift the toe off the floor. Grounding the four corners of your foot. Stretch from pelvic floor through crown. Use your shoulder blades in connection with your back buttocks, which are engaged, to help you find balance. And then exhale, float back up. Release your shoulders. Roll your shoulders. Let's try it on the other side. So always remember, you can modify this pose towards a little bit more ease, and you can work your way into it. So we open across the shoulder girdle, palms active, finger pads active, like activate your hands all the way back into the heart center. Now really ground into the four corners of your standing foot before you lift the other leg. Stretch from pelvic floor, lift your rings, lift through the crown. Feel your ability to balance using your landmarks of your shoulders, your buttocks, your feet, your head. And come back up and roll your shoulders. Okay, so you can do that pose again, or you could use your chair and come into your Ardha Chandrasana in the center of the room, or you could use your block coming into your Ardha Chandrasana in the center of the room. So your choice. I'm going to do it first side with the chair. So if you come onto the chair, remember your hand can be behind your foot. If you try to keep it in line with your foot, it's going to be harder to balance. So your hand can step back behind the pinky toe side. I like coming through Vira 3 in a bent front knee and then lifting the hip and opening the upper arm. You're finding your shoulder blades on your back body. Your femur bones, still in this pose, rest back in your pelvis. You're not popping them forward. And then you float the shoulder blade onto the back. Yeah, and you shine out from the pelvis. Fluid breath. And if you fall, you're like the child on the playground. Oh, I'm going to try it again. Okay, fluid, beautiful energy, Susie, out every limb. Fluid breath. These are wonderful. Nice integration of your shoulder, Michael, on the lower side. Fluid breath. Really find that shoulder blade. Now don't throw the hand so high up that the shoulder blade becomes misaligned, that the head of the arm bone misaligns. Beautiful. And step back up. Really nice. Nice dismount, Sherry. And let's take it to the other side. Fluid breath. Whichever prop you would like to play with. Coming in, Anna's doing it so thoughtfully. Fluid breath, really nice control, Anna. Beautiful, Debbie. Yeah, it's just amazing to me that you had pretty major surgery not very long ago. From your pelvis, you're radiating out in each direction. That back foot is alive. Both hands are awake. Beautiful, slow opening, Sherry. Nice work, Jill. Nice alignment from crown to heel. Beautiful, John. Nice side body length of your, what is that for you? Right side body. Try to think of lifting and lengthening everyone right through your crown, right through your crown. Yes, yes. And exhale, release. Pause again in your mountain pose, having been the half moon in the sky, ardha chandrasana. Invite that sky into your inner landscape. Feel for a spaciousness between your shoulders, around your heart center. And let's bring it to the floor. Let's bring a bolster with us today and do a few heart opening poses. You may also want your blocks if you'd like to come into Supta Baddha Konasana for your final pose. But first, let's bring the bolster across the mat. Now, those of you who have a tighter upper spine, it might be more beneficial to use a blanket roll than a bolster, okay? So you have to decide that. Some of you, what I'm going to do today is the block pillow with the bolster and my arms resting to the side. Some of you, if you have tight pec minor and it pulls your head of your arm bones forward, you may want blankets under your arms if you choose the bolster. Shoulder blades on the back. I'm drawing in my block on medium, and I'm bringing my arms just over the edge of the bolster and resting my arms back in a T. If that's too much for you, you can rest your elbows on the bolster and your hands on your heart. I start with my feet in constructive rest so that my knees are towards the sky so that I can lift my pelvis up and traction it away from my shoulder girdle. And then set my buttocks back down. And then I may walk the soles of my feet together and come into a Baddha Konasana or lengthen my legs. It's really up to you. The longer legs may give you more stretch through the fascia of the spine. The Baddha Konasana will give you more hip opening. So it's just kind of a matter of what your body wants today. Fluid breath. It is a serious external rotation to come into Baddha Konasana, so the longer legs might be better here. Fluid breath. And once you get into the position for the back bend, notice how your femur bones rest back towards the floor, rest back in the pelvis. Your groins can hollow and become soft. That's good positioning for the femur bones. Now invite the breath in to massage you open. to give you that well-deserved relaxation after a strong standing pose practice. My hope is that as we become more aware of our upper bodies in space, we can use them to help us create balance in everything that we do in our lives, from hiking to gardening to reaching for things in the cupboard. Three-dimensional breath. If you like the ujjayi sound, if it's relaxing to you, come into the ujjayi sound. And then as you're ready, you can slowly begin to step your legs in, to bring your arms in, hands resting for a moment on the heart. And then support your head with your hands to lift yourself up and roll off the bolster. Okay, let's do one more restorative before we come into our Supta Baddha Konasana. We'll take the bolster to the hips and we'll give ourselves a supported bridge. And we'll come into an inversion. So we lift our pelvis up, place the bolster underneath the sacrum, and lift the legs towards the sky. There can be an easy bend to the knees if your hamstrings are tight. And really lift your shoulders off, let them reach away from your pelvis. Broaden the shoulders on the mat. Let your arms move out in a diagonal like you're creating a triangle between your hands and your heart center. And let the head of the arm bones rest back and the shoulder blades rest broad. Then if you'd like to, you can take your legs wide for a moment. Don't do this if it doesn't feel good or it's hard to draw them back together. Harder for taller people. You can flex and point your feet. Circle the feet. Circle them the other way. And then draw the heels back together. Take the right leg overhead, left leg long, and flex and point the feet. And circle the feet. Circle them the other way. And switch which leg is where. And flex and point. And circle one way. Circle the other. And notice you're in a Supta Parsvottanasana here. And bring your legs back together. And rest your knees a little bit towards your heart. Try to relax as best you can in the inversion. Let your femurs really settle into the pelvis. Breathe three-dimensionally into the torso. And if you'd like to, you can bring the femur bones as close as they'll come to the belly, knees bending. And then you can straighten the legs as straight as they'll go towards a plow position. Fluid breath. And then float your heels back up the sky and rest as much as you can. Three-dimensional breath. Feel how the breath moves the tissue in your abdomen and chest. And visualize how this can move the lymph, the tiny little lymph vessels that collect the fluids from your tissues and from the cells. Drawing it back, cleansing it to release back into the bloodstream. And now bend your knees and release one foot lightly to the floor and then the other. Lift the pelvis up. Release the hips back down. Roll yourself over and bring the bolster in for your Supta Baddha Konasana. Now, if you'd prefer a different restorative, then please take that. It's your practice. I was just really after strengthening and stretching across the shoulder girdle today, and this is another heart opener. If you'd like to have a hip opener as well, you can bring your blocks in for your Baddha Konasana. Remember, you'll have a little deeper lumbar back bend if you bring your sacrum right against the bolster. You can also just bring your low ribs up to the edge of the bolster and have a little less of a back bend. You could also just lay your back along a thin blanket roll and allow your shoulders to fall off either edge of the blanket roll. Your legs can be long, or you can be in constructive rest with your knees skyward. Your knees could fall in, or you can open into a Baddha Konasana, your choice. Whatever position you choose with the lower body, bring your attention back to your heart center. In Qigong, summer is the time of heart meridian. Of deep sunshine. In yoga, we breathe into the heart chakra when we do heart openers. We invite that heart energy to move out our wings. But we may need a resupply, a nourishment to this heart energy. So visualize your heart opening and that you can breathe prana right into the heart center. You can resupply your heart. And from your heart, send nourishment to the rest of your body. Your heart center carries a lot of tenderness. You can offer it compassion, empathy, loving kindness, support. Ah, I feel your tenderness, heart center. Thank you for being a part of me. I'm offering you these breaths as support. Now gently bring energy back into your fingers and your toes. Stretch in whatever way feels good to you. Take a few more deep and nourishing breaths into the heart center. And as you're ready, slowly begin to release. If it feels good, you can turn yourself over and take a child's pose. Or come into a downward dog, just releasing the back bends. Stay with your fluid breath. Some of you may want to step into a standing child's pose or take a forward fold. And then as you're ready, unhinge and come back to a comfortable seat. Feel into your pelvic bowl as you settle your seat. And feel up from there to your heart center. From your heart center to your third eye and your crown. Feel into your back buttocks and place your shoulder blades broad on your back body. Inhale your hands to your hearts. May we be aware of the strength of our wings and how they integrate in around our heart centers. Namaste. And thank you for your practice.